Welcome to Open. I'm Rhina Valentin, your host of Café con Leche for the next hour, encouraging you to get social with us online during these social distancing times. And make sure to tweet us and follow us on Instagram at BronxNet TV and like us on Facebook at Open BronxNet Television. And of course, you can always find me on those platforms, Twitter, FB, Instagram, Insta Stories, and LinkedIn at Rhina Valentin. Love to hear from you. So low-income communities continue to get hit hard by COVID-19. And according to the mayor's office, there are approximately close to 6,600 people confirmed to have contracted the virus at NYCHA, with a total of approximately 1,241 that have died. And in addition to the impact, government housing is dealing with having such large population of residents, predominantly Black and Brown. Many people are also still filing unemployment and are relying on government to assist in every which way possible. And so joining us to share more, we welcome Councilwoman of the 8th District, Diana Ayala. Hi, Diana.
Hello, everybody. How are you? Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, and blessings to you, because I know you just beat this silent enemy.
I did. I got sick in early April. It was really the most interesting because I really hadn't even gone out. I went out twice after the pause was put in place, and it was as easy as that. I thought I was protecting myself, and unfortunately became ill. My husband became ill, my mother, my sister, my daughter. So there were several of us that got sick.
And how long were you ill?
I was sick for about 2 weeks. I started with a really bad chronic cough one day, and I thought, well, this is kind of odd. And then I remember taking Robitussin because I suffer from allergies too, and I get this chronic cough anyway. So I thought maybe it has something to do with that, but it wouldn't go away. It just would not go away. And then the next day I started to feel like, feverish, and I took my temperature, and now I'm like, oh my goodness, now I have the cough and I have a slight fever. So I was able to consult with a doctor via telehealth, and they suggested that I start quarantining because, in all likelihood, that's what it was. And then, throughout as the illness progresses, you start to get, other symptoms like the loss of sense of smell, sense of taste, really bad headaches, horrible fatigue. But we were very fortunate in that we didn't get any respiratory, issues, which, we know affected so many of our neighbors.
Right. And speaking of neighbors, let's talk about NYCHA, because NYCHA is getting hit really hard. And it's, I know you represent the Bronx and Manhattan. However, it's horrendous because there were issues with NYCHA prior to this. I can only imagine how the people are dealing and coping with these current circumstances. I mean, the buildings themselves were struggling with keeping gas on, and now, the cleanliness. It's just, I can't even imagine.
I know, my hair stand, because they were already suffering from so many health related issues. We had mold, we had lead, no heat. Sometimes no hot water, and it's NYCHA's become a public health nightmare. And the people that live there, thankfully they're so resilient, and they have coalesced around this pandemic and really try to rescue themselves, right? Because government wasn't coming to help them. And so I happen to represent the district with the highest number of public housing stock of any other council member in the city, and it's been really overwhelming. But at the same time, it's not something that is surprising, right? It shouldn't surprise any of us, because we've been saying, this all along. You have, so many people, you have so much density in a community, and that density of, there's density everywhere, but when we talk about the millions of people that are living in overcrowded situations already, that are immune compromised already, something like this was just a disaster in waiting, right? And so I hope that at least we walk away from this with some lessons learned. on how to, I think one of the things that really pissed me off, and I'll use that word pissed me off because it's the accurate, description of how I felt, is that, there was no one coming to really speak to families, low-income families, families that were oversaturated, families that were really overwhelmed about the possibility that they may be impacted, right? And to really guide them through the best practices that will help keep them and their families safe. We were the last, right, in the totem pole. And so, I get that the priority went to hospitals and all of that because that was necessary, but nobody came to rescue us. And that was really devastating.
And so how has the testing on site resolved anything? I mean, it's I get that it's important for everyone to be tracked and to really get an estimated number of how many people have contracted. But at the end of the day, like what kind of resolve is being implemented?
I think that we're all learning, and I think this is experimental, to be honest with you. I think that it's helpful to know, where the highest numbers, came from. And then, and why, right? So that, again, we're better prepared in the future. But I think testing, the issue with the testing is we had the state designated certain developments that will go first. So like in the East Harlem, we have Washington houses. I think in the Bronx, they may be doing Patterson soon. But people are not getting tested, right? So we don't, some people are, but for the most part, a lot of our testing sites are sitting there empty, and
right.
we need people to go and get themselves tested as soon as possible.
Right, I hear you. And so, but then there's also the issue of the establishment being sanitized, right? I mean, people may not want to leave their houses if they're feeling that they're not living in cleanly environment. It's kind of like you're doomed if you do, and you're doomed if you don't.
Yeah, it's a catch-22. I get it. But I think it's important, listen. This is gonna be our new normal for a really long time, right? And we are all kind of adapting and trying to figure out how to continue to live our lives in the healthiest way possible, while not allowing this pandemic to really, stagnate us to the point that it's crippling, right? It's very crippling. There's mental health implications to this. There are financial implications to this. There also, I live in a family with 7 people, right? My mother and my father are really, really sick. So that weighs really heavily on my mind, and I'm sure that it weighs heavily on the minds of my constituents as well. So I get that, but it's important to know if you have or have not contracted, this illness, because too many of us are walking around with no symptoms, right? And so we're continuing to feed into it, and we're continuing to introduce this into our households. And, we're learning now that more and more children are becoming sick, right? And so we want to just learn everything that we can about this disease so that we're better prepared to address it.
All right, so we have to wrap up, but in closing, is there anywhere you would like to direct people that could assist them with regards to anything related to this, to testing, to unemployment, to food? Is there anywhere in particular that people should be looking to seek whatever assistance they're in need of?
Yeah, well, you should know as a viewer that our offices are still open. So if you need to be connected to food, if you're having issues filing for unemployment or getting a response, if you need to be connected to anything, to legal services, if you're a renter and you're concerned about, making payments, that our offices are still working and operational. My number is 212-828-9800. And we're just working remotely. We're different setting, but we're still trying to get people connected. The schools are still offering grab and go meals. Those are 3 meals a day, doesn't matter what age. Your local food pantry should be fully equipped, to service you. But if you want more specific information about the community that you live in, we're here to serve you. In the South Bronx, our number is 347-297-4922.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. Yes.
Thank you. And stay safe.
And you too. Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys, once again, be sure to follow Councilwoman Diana Ayala, who's out there for us. Her Twitter is at Diana Ayala, NYC. And for more updates on District 8 and COVID-19, be sure to check out her website, which is, what's your website?
It's New York City Council.nyc.gov.
Got it. All right, we have to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll discuss summer amid the pandemic. Don't go anywhere.